Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on navigating in vitro diagnostics clinical trials. My name is Pooja, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this session. Here at Cloudbyz, we are committed to providing innovative solutions to streamline and enhance clinical trials. Today, we have a comprehensive discussion lined up for you, focusing on the unique aspects of IVD clinical trials and how Cloudbyz eClinical solutions can help manage these operations end-to-end. Today, we'll be covering several key areas, including comprehensive understanding of IVD trials, ethical and privacy best practices, where you will learn strategies to ensure ethical conduct and robust patient privacy protection in IVD trials. And finally, learn more about eClinical platform advantages and how they enhance sample management, patient recruitment, and data management, improving trial efficiency and accuracy. And before we begin, here's a few housekeeping notes. So this session will be recorded and all participants are by default on mute. In case you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A section to submit your questions and we'll pick them up towards the end of this webinar. Please ensure your devices are on mute and your attention is not diverted that way. And if you encounter any technical issues, please do not hesitate to inform us in the chat. And a recording of this webinar will be posted on our website and emailed to all who have signed up. Now, moving ahead to today's flow of the session, we'll first be covering a quick round of introductions and about the Cloudbyz and who we are, before delving into our topic and end the session with a product demo and a Q&A round. But before that, let me introduce our speaker panel for today. Firstly, we have Mr. Dinesh Kashyap, who's the co-founder and CEO of Cloudbyz, with an extensive experience of 25 years in the life sciences industry. Next, we have Corinne, who works as account executive at Cloudbyz and has been associated with the industry for the past 7 years. Then we have Tunir. Tunir is a pre-sales manager here at Cloudbyz and has been associated with the industry for the past 8 years. And I'm Pooja Sood, working in marketing, will be your host for today. Moving on, a quick introduction to Cloudbyz. Cloudbyz eClinical is one of the fastest growing unified clinical trial management solutions in the market. We are 100% built on the Salesforce platform, which provides a unique advantage of being scalable, modular, and configurable as per your business requirements and processes. Our unified eClinical solution helps customers across all sizes, right from Fortune 500 companies to agile and nimble startups, conduct clinical trials efficiently and bring life-saving therapies faster to market and improve patient lives. Globally, we are present in 3 countries, headquartered in Chicago, USA, with our offices in Toronto, Canada, and offshore delivery center in Bengaluru, India. This setup offers us a unique advantage of servicing a customer across any time zone. Now, let me take you through our eClinical platform. Our flagship product, the CTMS, enables end-to-end project management of clinical trials. Next, we have the CTBM, which is a financial and budget management tool. Moving over to eTMF, it is a document management tool. The EDC, our data management product. And finally, the safety and pharmacovigilance product, which manages clinical trial safety and post-marketing pharmacovigilance. In addition to this, we recently launched our cutting-edge AI platform, the clinicalwave.ai, which comprises of ClinRedact, ClinExtract, and ClinDICOM. This helps clinical trial users redact and extract PHI and PII information across trial documents and DICE images. Most importantly, all our products seamlessly integrate with any other products. To learn more about Cloudbyz and our products, you can visit our website www.cloudbyz.com, or you can also book a demo by emailing us at info@cloudbyz.com. Regarding global safety regulations, our solutions are 100% compliant to FDA 21 CFR Part 11, GCP, HIPAA, and Pledge 1%. As an organization, we are ISO 9001 and 27001 certified. And yes, we are very proud to be recognized by the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing companies in America and Startup US as top 5 emerging pharmacovigilance startups. Now, without further ado, I will now hand over to my colleague Tunir to take you through to the main content of this webinar. Tunir, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Pooja, for setting the stage with the introductions about Cloudbyz and our products. I would now like to take the discussion forward and delve deeper into the IVD clinical trials, its nuances, and how Cloudbyz eClinical is just the perfect solution to manage their operations end to end. Okay, so this is the first of our slides, and with this we dive into the unique aspects of IVD clinical trials. Now, since these tests are done on human biosamples, there are some special considerations to them. So let's learn more about them. The first of them being governed by 21 CFR 812 regulations. Well, similar to drugs research, medical devices research is also governed by FDA regulations since it is crucial to ensure that the trials are conducted ethically and scientifically. The regulations under 21 CFR 812 are specific to investigational device exemptions, which is aimed at allowing any novel medical device to be used in a clinical study to collect safety and effectiveness data. Now, oftentimes, it has been seen that clinical studies conducted under an IDE or the investigational device exemption are done to support pre-market approval applications. To break it down, PMA application is a scientific regulatory documentation to FDA to demonstrate the safety and effectiveness of class 2 medical devices, which are basically devices that might pose a considerable threat to human health, in terms of clinical trials. And well, in all fairness, they should be going through the strictest of regulatory process. So usually, testing of devices like immunoassay analyzers, chemical chemistry analyzers, implants, ventilators, and pacemakers are done through this route. Now, before starting with the study, an ID must be approved by both the IRB and the FDA, which then ensures the device can be legally shipped and used in trials without the needing to comply with any other commercial distribution requirements. So, second in the list of unique characteristics is the specialized labs, which indeed forms the bedrock of such IVD trials. Now, these labs must be equipped to handle a variety of samples and conduct precise tests in multiple areas, including IVD assay development, target enrichment, and other such applications. However, it is not just having the right tools, but also ensuring that the environment is controlled and optimized for accurate testing. For which reasons we have the CLIA and CAP certifications. Basically, any lab performing such analysis of samples, must be CLIA or CAP certified. Next up is sample traceability. Well, it is critical for any IVD trial that samples are tracked every step of the way, including who is handling it and what tests are performed with that sample. Now, this involves using barcode systems, LIMS, to maintain a clear and accurate trail. Basically, there are two main types of samples. One is prospective and the other is remnant samples. Well, prospective samples are samples which allow for exact targeting of specific patients and gathering custom data in case report forms. The collection process for these samples take longer and are comparatively more costlier. And then there are remnant samples which rely on whatever is left in the lab after testing. So the disadvantage is they come with slightly lesser data and variable volumes because they're leftovers, but are quick to procure, and they are cheap as well comparatively to prospective samples. Now, since sample management is such a key part to these trials, we would be spending the next couple of minutes to understand the key components in a bit more details. So it includes sample planning, where we define how we are looking to maintain the sample integrity in the study protocol. This generally includes articulated practices for sample collection, processing, transportation, as well as storage. Next is the sample collection process, where we need to ensure that proper techniques and materials are used to collect high quality samples. Third is sample processing, where it is important to define how samples should be processed, especially handling conditions for biohazardous materials. Then we have sample transportation and storage conditions, which needs to align with protocol parameters to maintain sample stability. The point to note here is that we should be documenting the storage conditions and ensure a proper chain of custody during the transportation of this. And finally, we have labeling requirements, where the specimen needs to be accurately labeled right at the point of collection with all the required information to prevent any misidentification and ensure the accuracy of accessioning. And to ensure that all of the above parameters are undertaken seamlessly, it is important to consider the site capabilities as well. They should definitely have the appropriate equipments, digital systems, and trained staff. to collect samples, store them, and send them further to labs according to protocol requirements. So, by managing these aspects meticulously, we can ensure the reliability and integrity of data collected, which is critical for the success of these trials. So then, moving to the next, the analytical, moving to the next unique aspect, which is analytical and clinical validation. Pooja, the previous slide, please. Yeah, thanks. So, well, analytical validation again is an important part in the context of IVD trials. The objective here is to, ensure the tests perform consistently in the lab, covering different aspects like precision, trueness, linearity, sensitivity, specificity, as well as stability of the testing. Clinical validation, on the other hand, involves proving that the test works in real world conditions as well with actual patient samples. So these two processes collectively demonstrate their diagnostic accuracy and predictive values of these trials and are important to set a robust foundation for regulatory approval and market success. And then there is, remote monitoring. So IVD trials, don't actually require on-site monitoring, but then sites should also be sufficiently capable of managing remote monitoring requirements, both logistically as well as technologically. And by that, we mean access to video conferencing, access to source documentations, as well as the ability to provide a video view to the sample storage as well. And finally, last but not the least, the final, the unique aspect, which is definitely a bit common with other clinical trials, is the ethical considerations, which are paramount for any trials for that matter. We must ensure that all trials are, all trial participants are treated fairly, informed consent is obtained, and data privacy is maintained. This involves adhering to ethical guidelines and constantly evaluating the trial processes to safeguard the rights and well-being of participants. Now, in the context of IVD trials, this is also important since we need to ensure that the patient's samples are used responsibly and the diagnostic information generated is handled with confidentiality. Okay, so with that, we complete the unique aspects that we have for IVD clinical trials. Just a snapshot of it. So we'll move ahead to the next slide. Okay, so now let's walk through the life cycle of an IVD clinical trial. And it's quite similar to normal trials with some small variations at certain points. The first step is study design. Well, the journey begins with this particular stage, which is crucial to setting the foundation of the trial. We start with market research and needs assessment to understand the demand for the diagnostic product. And once we have a clear picture of the market needs, we move on to determining the regulatory pathway, aligning to the guidelines of FDA or other regulatory bodies, as the case may be, or in the market, in which you are going to launch that particular trial. And finally, once we have decided upon the above two items, we develop the trial protocol, which outlines our study objectives, design, methodology, statistical considerations, and other important parameters. Pooja, just a quick check. I am audible, right?
Yes.
Sure, thank you. Okay, so moving to the next step of the life cycle, which is site identification. Now, with the study design in place, we are going to be, we are going to start identifying the sites, which, potential sites, which can take up the trials. So, again, like we can do this, we can use digital platforms for doing this, which will make the process more efficient and scalable. Automated site outreaches help in identifying sites with the necessary capabilities and access to suitable patient populations. And once these potential sites are identified, we perform a site qualification. Again, better if done through digital means. And this involves doing site feasibility analysis as well. Stage 3 is site initiation. Now, this would involve training site personnel on protocol and procedures to ensure that everyone is on the same page and such that these site teams can understand the trial requirements and can execute the study accurately. Responsibilities are then clearly communicated to the site team, and we need to ensure that all the site staff are aware of their designated roles and they understand what they need to do here. The site teams would also need to sign a delegation log. Again, having an electronic version of this delegation log makes things much more streamlined and scalable, which effectively formalizes their responsibilities and commitments. So now that we have the sites ready, we can begin the patient recruitment, identifying and enrolling patients who meet the trial criteria. This step is vital for ensuring that we have representative and adequate sample size, adequate representation for the sample size for the study. And also remember that we need to take IRB approval before the protocol is pressed into action for study conduct. Stage 4 is study conduct, where the actual trial takes place. So patient screening is the first step, where we identify eligible patients based on the predefined criteria. Then we have site reach outs and qualification process, post which the selected sites are onboarded and site startup process initiates. Then there is kit management, by which we ensure that all necessary diagnostic kits are sent across to these sites for sample collection along with their respective requisition forms. Informed consent is obtained from all patients, ensuring that they understand the trial and agree to participate. Then we have case report forms or CRFs, which are filled out during the trial process, documenting all the relevant data. And these test results are also shared with sponsors after it has gone through a certain redaction process to keep them informed about the trial progress. Now, throughout the trial, we must also track and store samples securely to maintain their integrity and uphold the accuracy of sample accessioning process. Remote monitoring is, as previously discussed, will be an ongoing exercise. All this while to ensure that the compliance, that to ensure that we address any issues or we adhere to the compliance requirements which are there. And then there is also, beyond this, there is also the site and subject payments that needs to be processed as the subject moves to different trial stages, and payment accruals also needs to be stored for these payments made for any later reference. So stage 5 after the study conduct is the regulatory submissions, where we all know that all data, results, and documentations collected will be finally submitted to the FDA for regulatory approval. Okay, so that's that. Let's now move ahead to the next slide. Okay, so in this slide, we will talk about the hurdles that this industry faces and how we can overcome them with the best practices. Starting with the challenges, cohort selection for specific, for specific profiles. Well, one of the most, I would say, one of the foremost challenges in the IVD trials is the accurate selection of cohorts that match specific profiles required for diagnostic testing. This is all the more crucial because the success of trials largely depend on how well the selected cohort represents the target population. The diversity and the specific characteristics required for these cohorts often complicate the requirement process, significantly delaying the trials as well. The next challenge the industry faces is speed of sample collection from sites. Another significant challenge is the speed at which the samples they are collected from sites and they reach the labs. Delays in the sample collection and transporting process will lead to disruption in the trial timelines, invalidating the samples usability and affecting the overall efficiency and the reliability of the results. Now, this challenge is particularly pronounced in multi-site studies where the coordination and logistics also plays a pivotal role. Third up, it's the challenge regarding kit management, with and where like kits effectively include everything from collection kits to testing kits, and managing and ensuring these reach the labs these reach the sites in a proper manner is yet another complex task. So again, like, given these kits have to basically start the journey from the labs and reach the sites, requires meticulous planning and execution. And the kits should also come with a sample requisition form, which adds yet another layer of complexity, especially in the scenarios where the sample collection data is incorrect or does not uniquely identify with the requisition form with which it was sent. The fourth challenge that the industry or the trial users face is the sample accessioning accuracy. Well, accuracy of sample accessioning is critical, as we all know, to maintain the integrity of the trial data. Errors can occur due to multiple reasons, including labeling mistakes, incorrect recording of data, or tracking samples wrongly, all of which can lead to significant setbacks and delay the accessioning process, leading to wastage in samples as well as increasing the costs. The fifth and final challenge is the need for accurate clinical validation. Finally, we also have, finally, we also have this particular need where accurate clinical validation needs to happen, And this involves ensuring that the diagnostic tests are not only reliable but are also reproducible across different cohorts and conditions. Now that we have learned about the challenges, let's also go through the best practices that the industry can follow to overcome these particular challenges which are there. So the first is targeted cohort selection and HCP engagement. Well, to address the challenge of cohort selection, adopting targeted patient recruitment strategies is essential. By collaborating primarily with HCPs and investigators, patient advocacy groups, and leveraging patient registries, we can identify and recruit individuals who perfectly match the trial's inclusion criteria, thereby enhancing the trial's effectiveness and efficiency. The idea is to have a digital solution to make the collaboration between HCPs and CROs as seamless as possible. The second best practice is digitized sample and kit management. Well, having a digital platform for samples and kit management can significantly streamline these processes. By using barcodes for uniquely identifying samples against digital sample requisition forms, we can accelerate the whole process of sample accessioning as well as improve the accuracy. This can further be enhanced with real time tracking through digital platforms that can provide visibility into the status of samples and kits and at any given point of time across multiple studies. The third best practice that we should be following is real time query management with sites. Well, effective and swift resolution of discrepancies in sample collection is mandatory if we are to improve the overall quality and the timelines for IVD trials. Digital platforms equip lab teams with real-time query management systems that enable swift resolution of issues through online data collection forms or DCFs, and that can be sent to sites for responses. Now, this not only accelerates the sample collection process, but also enhances the collaboration between different stakeholders involved in the trial. The fourth best practice speaks about barcode tracking and sample and requisition forms. Well, introducing barcode tracking for samples and requisition forms can dramatically improve the accessioning accuracy. This practice minimizes human errors and ensures that each sample is accurately tracked from collection through to the analysis. It also facilitates easier and more reliable data management. The fifth and final best practice is robust protocol design. Well, robust protocol design is definitely indispensable for the accuracy of a clinical validation. This involves meticulous planning and the inclusion of comprehensive validation steps in your protocol. By adhering to well-defined and rigorously tested protocols, we can ensure the reliability and the reproducibility of diagnostic tests. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of our industry analysis segment, and we would now like to take the discussion forward with a focus on the Cloudbyz's unified eClinical platform and how we can become the one-stop solution for all of your IVD trial operations. Okay, so now if you remember, in the very first slide of our presentation, Pooja had explained about the offerings that comprise our unified eClinical platform, which are CTMS, CTBM, ETMF, or e-regulatory, and the EDC. So now we are going to take that thought forward by explaining how each of these solutions become instrumental in accelerating the IVD trial operations. So as you can see in the center of your screen, we have indicated the different critical junctions or activities that are executed during an IVD trial. Now these start all the way from cohort selection, then site outreach and qualification, managing of regulatory binders, to digital collection of patient data and e-consents, then supply chain operations like kit management, sample tracking, and storage, and finally closing out with with publication of all subject and sample data by means of aggregate reporting. Additionally, we can also track site and subject payments for the trials as well. Now, as you can see, Cloudbyz has a focused solution to take care of each of these individual requirements. But where we set ourselves apart from the competition is that all of these solutions are part of our eClinical platform and bound by a common data model. So effectively, Cloudbyz offers you with centralization of data across all aspects of your IVD trials, whether that may be the success metrics of your patient recruitment or site enrollment and activation performance, remote monitoring of startup procedures and study conduct, the status of patients as they move through different trial stages, to also the journey of kits as they move to different site locations conducting trials, then sample collection efficiency, aliquot movements, freezer inventory, accessioning accuracy, and the utilization percentage of samples in your trials. And by the way, this is just a teaser of what the system can do. We have a whole host of operations that can be digitized and tracked with our unified solution. Okay, so with that, we'll move to the next slide. And yeah, and so this will be the final slide of the deck. And I would not bore you with much of presentation after this, and would hand over to Corinne for the product demo. So we have in this particular slide a representation of our eClinical platform with all the individual modules that are tailored for IVD trials. And as I just explained in the previous slide, these are all bound together as part of one platform, as well as they can be set up individually as per your requirements. We also have, as part of our platform, sponsor portal for sharing redacted medical records with sponsors, as well as site portal for collaborating with PIs, assistant investigators, and site coordinators as well. And now before I close, I would like to address another major concern when it comes to using digital systems for conducting IVD studies, which is the lengthy study setup timelines, which often extend to many months and in a way is a major drain on the trial's resources. With Cloudbyz, we can bring down your study setup timeline significantly, and we believe it would surely be a game changer for your trial operations. Okay, so with that, I will, I'll probably yield the floor to Corinne, and she will take it forward with the product demo. Thank you, Corinne. You can take over now.
Thanks, Tanir. I'll get my screen sharing here. Do you mind just confirming that you're able to see that, Tanir?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, yeah, thanks for going through all of that. I hope everyone is paying attention and has some good questions saved up for the end there. But just starting off with our patient recruitment, like Tanir was mentioning, with our PR module, you can manage your recruitment activities. You can search your existing database of profiles to help fill those cohorts. So we have our query manager or our volunteer segmentation. I can apply various filters, save those searches, add them to a campaign for further action and outreach. So these are configurable filters. Imagine you have various genetic biomarkers as your filters, or A1C levels, or things like that, just to really pinpoint those specific populations that you're trying to fill those cohorts with. So we have that available. And then in terms of outreach afterwards, we can pre-screen them. So we'll take a look at one of our participant records here, potential participants here. We can pre-screen them to potential other studies, study matching. And then if they meet that eligibility criteria, they can take it a step further, log into a secure portal. So a participant portal, volunteer portal, subject portal, whatever you guys determine that this needs to be called, to complete an e-consent. So our e-consent features a lot of tools and features like supporting media, videos and images, as well as we have an FAQ, a dictionary, highlighting tools, things like that might be helpful to them. And then afterwards, finish it off with that 21 CFR Part 11 compliant e-signature. You can type it or draw it. There's various options there. So just a sneak peek at our participant portal there, which can feature, various other aspects like ePros, if that's applicable, lab reports. They can see their payments coming to them. So a lot of things that can be leveraged in this portal here. Let's move along and see how our study setup is done. So we're just in our Cloudbyz eClinical here. I'll take a look at our precision study. So we have various sub-tabs to track the ongoing stages of our studies, life cycle, information, all of the fields that you're seeing, the tabs, all of that, that's configurable. So if there are certain aspects that you're looking to capture and track, we can certainly make those changes. This is just a dummy demo org that we've got set up here, but just keeping that in mind. So study details, collection configuration, all of those study details on our first tab there. Study team members, planning includes various aspects, if applicable. The regulatory binder built right in there with an interactive dashboard that we have so we can see, what documents are pending review, which ones are expired, and we can action those right away. Study setup, this is where we're doing a lot of our form building, randomization if applicable, and then setting up our products and our kits that are samples and shipments and so on. So I would go ahead and create a product number, select my kit type, again, configurable lists here that we're seeing, enter in those details. Add additional fields here on this page. I already have a product set up here, so we'll just take a look at that. Again, fields are configurable. We can see all of the kits associated with that. We would add our study kits if you need to add additional ones. And so as those are shipped out, we can track all of those. So it's layered and always kind of connected back there to our product that we have, right? So we'll take a look at that in a moment in terms of samples and the collection of that. But so that initial shipment, we can set up thresholds as well to trigger automated reordering, or just have the sites raise a request for shipment in terms of inventory. So that is all baked into the system. We'll move over to our site portal just so we can see what that looks like on their end. So we're just looking at, again, a very basic site portal that we've set up here. We'll go into our studies. We'll see a list of studies that my site is participating in, particularly site details, site teams. I can see, again, at a site level, my queries, products, kits, samples, shipments, and things like that. So taking a look at our subjects, we'll open up our subject record here on the left. We'll go directly into that requisition form that I have available for our initial collection visit. You can see I've already done some data entry there, but we'll take a look at our requisition form. Right, so no data entry needed on my behalf here. This is just pre-populating the first name, last name. This is information that we would have already been capturing. These can be blinded fields. Blinding can be set up as well. And we can see that where my data entry would begin. I can just click now, adjust that accordingly, and then I can add my sample collection rows. So that's going to create a sample record for me. We can have this also auto-populated if we didn't want to go ahead and click that. There's field types supported here in the form. I could spend an entire hour just on the form setup and build. It's a lot of information there. We'll select one of our kits. These fields are mandatory, marked with the asterisk, but they could also just be, set to non-mandatory, just depends on setup and preference. So we'll go ahead and save that. We wanted to add additional samples. If there was multiple samples being collected for this particular form, that could also be done. You would just simply add an additional record there. So we can see that this form has been completed here. And and that form would be available internally as well. So all of that being tracked, once data entry is complete, it does open up for, as you can see, let's look at our vital signs, those are completed for data review. So whoever's responsible for reviewing that data could be notified through an email notification or a system generated notification that they can come in now and start marking those fields as reviewed. Again, that is set up at a field level. You can determine which fields require that process. STV may not be required, and they can also issue queries. So this is going to digitize that DCF process, adding a query to a field level, setting a priority, assigning it to a particular role or a particular user, setting a category and adding those details. So once those queries are added and generated, like I said, whoever's supposed to be notified of that can be. We can see a roll up at any point across the system at a study level, at a site level, and we have the ability to segment and sort those queries as well. Have notifications, for example, if a query has been open for X number of days. The sky really is the limit with those notifications that we can generate. Okay, so just moving back to internally. Right, so we would have, as I said, kit sample shipment study data internally. We have the ability to update our forms with versioning, and that will be tracked in the audit trail as well as export our data. So all of those capabilities that we need are in the system as well. All of the queries, this is looking at it from a study level, so we have multiple sites here included in this. So again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I feel like I could spend hours just on the data capture portion. And then we'll take a look at that sample record that was created, or any of our sample records here, just so we can see what's in there. Sample details. We can have barcode generation enabled to help for tracking as well. There are storage details, shipment details. So a lot of information that we can go really, really deep here. So the storage unit, how is it being stored, things like that. So a lot of traceability there. And then, of course, with these completed procedures and completed shipments and things like that, there is, as Tanir mentioned, our CTBM, our clinical trial budget management. So invoices can be generated, payments can be generated, and then we have the ability to view in our study and site budgets for tracking that as well with our CTBM that we have available as well within the system if you choose to leverage that. So on top of these base products that we've shown, and just a sneak peek of these, we've done customizations, integrations with third parties to really enhance the user experience, configure the system, really bells and whistles according to the exact requirements and operations. So just wanted to highlight that as well. But thanks for paying attention, and I hope we've got lots of questions queued up and ready to answer.
Thank you so much, Corinne. So let's now move into the Q&A round. All right, so I see that one of the participants.
Oh, you know what, Pooja? Pooja, you realize I had my reports and dashboards open, and we didn't even touch upon that.
Okay.
Let me just quickly show those really quickly. I've just got some mock-up sample management dashboards for inventory. So you can add filters to those, hone in, look at a study level, site level. So just a couple of examples of some of these reports that we can generate with a great subscription feature. So you can subscribe to receive these at a set frequency, send them to your colleagues. They'll receive them as well by email without even having to log into the system. So a lot of robust reporting. Reports are available out of the box. You simply just need to start adding the data to watch these reports grow with information. Thanks, Pooja. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, so we have a couple of questions with us here today. So firstly, first question is, who can see the patient recruitment part within Cloudbyz eClinical? The sites? I was just wondering, Corinne, Dinesh.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute there, talking away. Yeah, so that PR piece can be leveraged and exposed to the sites. It could also, on the internal end, as a sponsor, a lot of the fields that we were seeing, like names and things like that, they could be blinded. So we can control a lot of that through the permissions. Great question.
Okay. Thank you. The next one is, can you comment on how the IVD clinical trial lifecycle changes when conducting studies using previous collected specimens such as biobanks, and how the Cloudbyz platform supports these types of studies?
Sorry, I'm just reading this
Yeah.
one more time, so I understand the question. Yeah, so a lot of if the data is already in the system, and Dinesh, maybe you can speak to this. It could be utilized in the study setup. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. So thank you so much, Corinne. I think this is Dinesh here. Hello, everyone. So certainly there are various considerations when you're using the samples from the biobank. One is your protocol from the regulatory standpoint. Make sure that the protocol includes that study design includes that biobank samples in the study. That's number one. Number two is make sure that the informed consent and all the regulatory requirements are being met. There is inclusion of these biobank samples in the clinical trials, and making sure that the informed consent accommodates use of these samples in future studies. And there are
Right.
quite a number of regulations around that. So from the platform standpoint, though, so our solution is configurable to make sure that so you can, whether it's a study setup, whether it is a the informed consent setup, to make sure that these are configured in a way that a system can utilize the biobank samples which are already stored in the system, right? As long as those regulatory requirements are being met. So then we can bring in the samples based on the cohort and all the, as Corinne showed, we do have a segmentation. Similarly, you can also segment the already available biobank samples in the system,
Right.
and you can put those samples in the trial as well. So again, there are quite a number of regulatory requirements in terms of the approvals and opt-in consideration from the patients to use those biobank samples in the future studies. The quite number of regulations, as long as those are met, and from the technology standpoint, our platform does allow to use both, sample collection for the study as well as existing samples in the biobank as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dinesh. I believe this answers the question. It was from an anonymous person. The next question is the ability to only do remote monitoring for IVD clinical trials, or only for IVD clinical trials, only applicable in the US, or also in the other countries? Corinne, would you want to take this up?
Yeah, we have various customers using our solution globally. So this can be a global solution if that's required as well, outside of the US or North America. So definitely possible to set up that remote monitoring aspect from other countries.
Okay. Another question. Can you demo the data analysis and report features? For example, can this platform help pull data and generate reports for FDA submission? Corinne, I think this is around the demo.
Yeah, so the data can definitely be extracted. The reports that we saw on screen were more just graphics as well, but if I go into any of those, they have various data points that can be generated and pulled and shared as CSV or Excel. So we have the ability to export that data as per FDA requirements to help and generate
Yeah.
those submissions.
Yeah, and just to add to that, our platform currently does not support analytical data, like study data for a submission purpose, but we can extract this data and provide the data to analytical platforms like Databricks, Snowflake. We have such platforms where they can provide a deep insight into those kind of analytics, and then that data can be sent to a sponsors of those devices or could be sent to as a FDA submission ready. But our platform, the platform what you have seen today in terms of the demo, our platform does not support analytical or submission ready analysis out of the box. So that is something typically our customers do it as part of the outside of the system, but they do extract the data. Our platform does provide a very easy way to extract the data in a multiple formats, SDTM, CSV, or Excel, or many other formats, including the database export as well. And we can also connect any of the data platforms or data lakes, such as data warehouse or any analytical tools like Power BI and so on and so forth, and where analysis can be done and the data can be prepared for the FDA submission ready.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dinesh. Well, a couple of few more questions. So the next one is how do you manage the discrepancies during sample collection data? Corinne, would you want to pick this up?
Yeah, so through that query management, that whole process there, the issuing of the queries on the data during review, responding to them, you can close out the queries. So that's going to, as I said, digitize that DCF process and help really in real time get that data corrected and have those discrepancies minimized.
Awesome. The next one is, can you track samples all the way to freezers, racks, and to aliquots? Also track the time as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that is definitely something we've done. Right down to the storage unit where it's being held. Is it in a freezer? Is it in a crate? Is it, all of that information can be tracked at a record level. Time points of a session when a sessioning starts. So all of that information can be tracked.
Awesome. And the next question is around pricing. So what sort of pricing do you follow? One of our attendees have asked.
Yeah, so there's two pieces to the pricing. There's an annual subscription-based pricing for the users of the system. So every user would need a license to access, and that just helps with keeping compliant with being able to track in the audit trail who's doing what in the system. So there's the licenses aspect as well as the implementation. There's a one-time implementation fee that will allow you to add as many studies to the system as you would like, generate as many reports and dashboards. There really is no limit there or additional cost beyond that one-time implementation fee of the system.
Awesome. And is there a trial period for testing the product? That's another question.
Yep, absolutely. Great question. So we can set up a sandbox for those that are interested just to click around as up to a few users for about 2 weeks. They can take a look at the system. And
awesome. And I think if anybody wants to know more, they can at any time, shoot us an email or at info@cloudbyz.com, and our team can definitely get in touch with you to help you set up this trial period and a demo. Next question is, what happens once the sample has been shipped from the site? Can this also be tracked?
yeah, that's definitely one of the pieces that all of that, the shipping information, the tracking number, all of that can be tracked along with that sample. So those fields are there to track that information and again, generated into a report that can be generated. There can be notifications associated with that along the way. Whoever needs to be notified of where that sample is in transit.
Okay. Great. So the next question, again, it's around, do you provide application maintenance? Yeah. Corinne, you want to pick this up?
Yep, we are constantly making improvements to the application, making updates and changes. Again, these are obviously not forced upon our customers. They can choose to opt into those, but that's definitely something that we offer is maintenance and support.
Okay, and how can we check site responses for the feasibility questions asked?
Yeah, so definitely would love to go through whoever's interested at a later date in more detail the feasibility process, but sending those out, we have the ability to send out feasibility surveys directly from the system using a template, get their responses back and analyze that data and their responses to determine if based on that information they're providing, are they going to be feasible to conduct that particular study. So that whole process is baked into our CTMS and can be leveraged.
Awesome. Next one is, can your system create custom reports for us for any data point that we enter?
Yeah, so any data points that are entered into the system can be generated into a report. But if there are, and by the end user, by the way, so we would train you on how to generate those reports. But if there is anything beyond that and there are custom reports beyond what is available, that is something that we can certainly look at and help to configure.
Great. And then the next one is, can you integrate with LIMS? Yeah.
Great question. Yes. So glad to see that somebody's seeing the full big picture there. Having an integration with a LIMS system has certainly helped to get those lab results directly back into the system. There wouldn't be, a middle data cloud or any kind of manual entry there. So we have definitely explored that in the past, and being built on Salesforce with those open APIs allows for very easy integration abilities there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corinne. I think we just have one more question left. So they say that you showed a chat tool with your solution. Will the communications be secure?
Yeah, so that is the chatter functionality or the collaboration space that we leverage. It is secure just because it is built on the platform. But with that being said, I definitely wouldn't advise against putting any patient sensitive information in there, names, dates, birth, or addresses, things like that. So it is secure because it is built on there, but just in terms of best practices, I wouldn't use it for anything like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corinne and Dinesh, for answering all the questions. And thank you, everyone, for your active participation. So yes, we have now approached the conclusion of today's webinar. Thank you all for joining in and taking our time to interact with us today. Before we wrap up, please remember to look out for a follow-up email containing the webinar recording, additional resources, and ways to stay connected with the community. Also, please keep an eye on our website for updates on future webinars and events. Thank you once again for being a part of this insightful journey. We'll see you next month.